Hey guys, just finishing up my Instagram post and waiting on the virtual classroom to film. I already see there are 8 people here. I just was struggling with a link on Instagram. I'm just gonna put this live and then I'm gonna post something on my LinkedIn to get as much people as possible to the lecture. 1 second. Let's have a look. The last emoji. All right, so that's my Instagram post. Got 3 people watching right now. Yeah, post it. I'm also going to post it on my LinkedIn to get some extra traction to tell the story of United Wardrobe. Let's have a look if this still works. No. Works. No. Oh, now I'm seeing myself double. Okay. Okie dokie. So I see that there are only 2 people came. Nicholas is here. Or 3 right now. But I will also post it afterwards. So it's super helpful to do. Only 3 is a bit. It's still nice weather outside, so the Dutchies are enjoying the weather. And yeah, we're just gonna talk about how I started United Wardrobe in my student days, and yeah, how we imagined the platform to be, and eventually scaled it, and then sold it to Vinted. So yeah, it all started for us at the Wageningen University. Jules Berde, one of my fellow students, he was also very entrepreneurial, and we were always talking about starting a business, but we were just students and we didn't know really, yeah, what we wanted to do, what kind of business we wanted to start. So we were having this little business club with 8 people. We were having some drinks, and then we chatted about doing business. And eventually, 5 people now here. Nice guys, hi, welcome. Oh, 4, no. Eventually, yeah, he told me like, hey, I have 3 sisters, and they have like a shitload of clothing. We have to build something for this. And I was like, Jules, okay, so you want to build like a website like Marktplaats.nl, it's like the local eBay. Why do you want to build this? Because we already have Marktplaats.nl. Everybody can already sell their clothes there. We have already Facebook groups. So why in the heck do you want to build this only for your sisters? You know, it's not going to work. And then for a couple of months, he kept on telling me, Thijs, we have to do this. We have to do this. And eventually, I remember that I just went crazy. I was like, okay, Jules, if you believe in this idea that much, we just have to build it, put it live, and see if we have some traction. So basically, that's what we did. We had zero knowledge of understanding how an IT product worked. We were both around 21. We're in our second year of university. And then, yeah, we just started off looking for a designer, because every IT product starts with a design. You need a design, and then you need some developers to develop that design. And eventually, we found a guy that wanted to work for us to design. He was studying in Arnhem. He was living in Wageningen. Super random how we met, because I went to this hogeschool for yeah, it's like under university in the Dutch system, and there they taught a lot of design classes, and I just came in there, started talking to people, found this guy who was working for another company. And when I was talking to him there, he was not really into United Wardrobe, the idea, and he also didn't really want to work for us. We also, yeah, offered him only 10 euros an hour. So then I went back to my student house, posted on Facebook like, "Hey, I'm looking for a designer. Somebody can find one for me. He's gonna get some beers." And then eventually, one of my friends, Jay, he called me, and he told me like, "Hey, I have this new guy at my student house. And he's a designer." So I went to his house, and it was exactly the same guy as I talked to in Arnhem. So he was like, "Okay, let's do this." So we went for like 8 evenings to the university. We got a huge beamer on the wall, and we just beamed Photoshop on the wall, and we're like, okay, well, this button there, this button there. Of course, that is not the process to develop a website, because you need to make like a definition of ready. And if you have a definition of ready or some mockups, you can make a detailed document to really clearly explain what you're going to develop. But we were just students and we didn't know how IT worked. So we were just banging on the wall, like saying, okay, we need this button there, this button there. And eventually we had the first design of United Wardrobe. And it was, it was super basic version of like a clothing marketplace with just some categories and a feature for your own profile. And so eventually we finished up this whole design, and then we needed a developer. So we were constantly looking for developers for like 3 months, and we basically started to like give it up because it was so difficult for us to find a developer who just wanted to create United Wardrobe in his spare time, because we also went to a development bureau and they basically told us like, hey guys, this whole idea of yours is going to cost you around 30,000 euros to develop. And we were like, 30,000 euros, that's way too much money. So that's why we started with the designer ourselves and the developer ourselves, because we were just students and we didn't have that money. So then I was doing some re-exams, and I talked to one of my fellow students, and it was Joep. And he had already a small IT company doing some hosting. And he was like, hey guys, we can just go to the Kamer van Koophandel, like the Chamber of Commerce of the Netherlands. And we can create this company with the three of us, and let's go. And me and Shu were like, okay, yeah, why not? So we went to the Chamber of Commerce, created a small company, and then we went on creating and developing United Wardrobe. And Joep was like, hey, I have some friend. He's called Thijs Slijkhuis. He can help us with the development. So then they started developing. And after a while, it was January 2014. So almost 8 years, longer than 8 years ago. And then, the first version of United Wardrobe went live. And what we did is we created a Facebook page. We got all our family members to like and subscribe. No, only like the page. And then eventually we had 2,000 people liking this Facebook page. And we also had a beta version, and our girlfriends went on there, and our nieces went on there, some friends went in there, and they placed already some products. So we had around 500 products when we started. I went to a vintage store, I bought a shitload of vintage, put it on the United Wardrobe, and then we launched, and it was super crazy. Then Thijs Slijkhuis was like, hey, this is Google Analytics. And we saw like 80 people coming on the website, and then went to 100, and then all the while it was flat lining, and we were like, oh my God, the United Wardrobe is down, what the fuck? And everybody was sending us messages like, hey, the website is down, is it true? Then Thijs Slijkhuis and Joep started developing, it went up again. And on the first day of the launch in January 2014, we had 500 people already subscribing to the platform. And we're like, hey, whoa, this is kind of working, I guess. We had more and more products coming in. And eventually, at the end of the day, it was like two random strangers that bought something from each other, because we started off, I called my mom and I was like, Mom, you have to buy something. She bought something and it went totally wrong. The ideal transaction failed. Thijs Slijkhuis fixed it again. Then I bought something from Joep. Joep bought something from me. I bought something from Shul. We just tested the system. And after this testing, we're like, okay, we think it's working. And only after like 3 or 4 hours, we saw that somebody from Groningen bought something from Rotterdam. And we're like, huh, do we know these people? Or these your sisters or your nieces or parents that are buying something out of the platform? And it was just two random strangers buying something. And we're like, huh, this network, we did it. We created something out of thin air, and it worked. Some random strangers are buying pieces of clothes. So we were super stoked up and hyped. And yeah, the next day we get our laptops open and we saw that there were like only two pieces of clothing sold. So we're like, okay, we have to fix this because yeah, we need more transactions to make the marketplace work. So I posted something on our Facebook page like, hey, we have some new cool sneakers coming in, and I posted the links of the items on that page, and we saw that there was coming some live to United Wardrobe. And the second day we only had like 20 registrations, and the weeks following it was like bleeding to death. It was like the 3 weeks after the launch of United Wardrobe, yeah, we only had like two or three pieces of clothing sold every day. Only 5 people made registrations, and we were like, maybe this whole United Wardrobe thing is not a good idea. Maybe just stop it. It was way too much money we put in it. We put around like 5,000 euros each in it, like super small with IT budget nowadays. But for us students, it was a lot of money. So me and Shu were like, no, we have to make one final shot. How can we make this work? And we saw every time we were posting something on Facebook, the numbers were going up. And then eventually we found these two Facebook groups. They were called the Vintage Marketplace and the Kleding Aangeboden Gezocht, like basically clothing search and aangeboden gezocht. Oh Jesus, aangeboden gezocht. Anyway, like it was like a small United Wardrobe on Facebook. So there were like Facebook groups, and there were like in the Vintage Marketplace. It was a group from Groningen. There were already 30,000 people in this group, and we were like, wow, we have to get this group on our platform. But you cannot just say to people in a Facebook group, hey, you have to just go to my website. No, it's not going to work because they're saying, no, why should I do that? And then we were like, okay, let's just post all our vintage items in this Facebook group. So that's basically what we did. We like all the vintage items that we had, we created a link, and if you posted that link in the group, then you saw that the photo image, the price went to Facebook. I'm sorry, I'm just yeah, I'm gonna answer everything after the lecture, otherwise you're gonna get distracted. Sorry, Ager. So anyway, we started to posting these things in these groups, and we saw that the traction was coming up. Every time we posted something, we looked at Google Analytics, and we saw that it was growing, and we were like, "Wow, there's something happening over here." So eventually we thought like, hey, we really need this group, so why not buy them so we can have like this pinned message on top of them? And that's basically what we did. We just went in negotiation with the owners of these groups, and we bought the Vintage Marketplace, like a group with 30,000 people already buying and selling clothing. We had the pinned message there, all the items that came into United Wardrobe, we posted to the group, and the little snowball began to run. We did the same trick with Kleding Aangeboden Gezocht. It was like, yeah, after 6 months, me and Shul were like, okay, we need development power, and we're gonna learn ourselves to develop, because Shul and me were doing business and economics in Wageningen University. And Shul was on the business side, I was more on the consumer side, on the psychology of the consumer. And we really thought like, okay, we're gonna do a minor in Amsterdam, and then we're gonna teach ourselves to app develop. So basically that's what we did. And we cried really, really hard, because app development for some guys that have like zero knowledge of IT is freaking hard. Yeah, if you want to develop and you have zero knowledge of IT, and you don't have like really something with math. Sorry, geez. Yeah, then it's really hard to learn yourself how to develop. And basically, we had a really rough period. Thijs Slijkhuis helped us a lot with all, learning how C works, learning how Java works, all that kind of stuff. But eventually, we learned a lot from it because we knew how the basics worked. Then we didn't really know how a server worked, and in the minor, we knew that PHP communicated with the server, and that this language is like a server-side language, and there's a front-end language, blah blah blah. So we learned a lot, but we didn't become developers. And then we saw that Facebook created this tool to make advertisements. So somebody was saying like, hey, you can buy clicks on Facebook. And I was like, buying clicks on Facebook? Really? Okay, it sounds scammy or sketchy. Nobody was doing it back in the days in 2014. So I just went to business.facebook.com. I created an ad with some sneakers. put it online, went running for half an hour, came back, and I saw immediately that like now normally we had like 30 people on the platform, but then we had like 50 people on the platform. I was like, oh, where are they coming from? And they're all coming from Facebook. So basically, we could buy clicks for around 3 to 5 cents to the United Wardrobe platform. So we did some calculation and we figured out that for registration, around 10, we needed 10 clicks from Facebook. So around 30 to 50 cents we needed for a registration. And we're like, okay, well, we're just going to spend all the money that's coming in to United Wardrobe on Facebook ads. And that strategy worked really, really well for us because we grew our Facebook budget with the revenue that we got. So we got more users, more products coming in, and a marketplace is all about liquidity. You need to have liquidity on your platform, otherwise your buyers think it's boring. But you also need to have the buyers that buy the liquidity, and otherwise they're gone. So it was a difficult struggle all the time to keep that in balance. But we figured out how to have an organized system to see which categories where we needed the products from. And then we put in all the money back to Facebook, and the ball really started rolling in the Netherlands. And around that time, we had around 30,000 users. A lot of students use our platform because students have like really dense networks and they go travel to a lot of cities. They speak to a lot of people. So if you scale a product among students, it's better working than mummies because the mummies nowadays, or not nowadays, but like on average, they have smaller networks. They don't go out and party every evening, though, because they have their children, of course. Of course, this depends on the mummies, but on average, students have way more bigger networks. They see more people. So it started rolling and rolling, and we had this article in the Volkskrant, one of the biggest Dutch newspapers. And there in this article, we had like a page about United Wardrobe. And at the end of the article, it was saying United Wardrobe is looking for an investment. And the phone went ringing like crazy. We had like Range Rovers, Porsches parked in front of our door, BMW 7 Series. And we are like, wow, what the fuck? All these people want to talk with us to have an investment. And we didn't know really how it worked to get an investment in a company. So we met with these two investors, Marcel Beemsterboer and Arthur Koste. Arthur Koste was the chief marketing officer of Booking.com. Marcel Beemsterboer was the founder. Beemsterboer was the founder of Emesa, which is vakantieveilingen.nl, real known in the Netherlands to get cheap holidays. And they both were like sold their company and they were looking for startups to invest. And so eventually, these two guys they came to our office and they were like, "Okay, guys, this is the deal we can give to you. We want this amount. We give you this amount of money. We want this percentage." And we were like, "Wow, that's a lot of money." But if that is the first deal that comes up for us, like the first investment proposal, then maybe in the future, in the coming weeks, we'll have way more better deals. So we were just waiting, developing, doing marketing, and then eventually there came no other investor that made us an offer like the ones that they did. So we called them back, we sent them emails, they were like unreachable. And then eventually I got Marshall on the phone, he was like, yeah, we're not really interested anymore. So they were like, okay, this is kind of shitty. The money was like running out because we're a startup. We're spending a lot of money on the Facebook marketing. So we're like, maybe we have to kill the Facebook ads, and that's what we did. And then all of a sudden, I got a phone call 2 weeks later of this guy, Tommy, and he was like, "Hey, I'm sitting here at the dentist, and you guys still are looking for an investment?" And we're like, "Yeah, why not? Come to the office." And he came with his friend Duco, and they literally this was their first startup investment. They told us like, "Okay, guys, we're going to give you 250,000 euros. We want to have a small percentage of the company." And by 9 o'clock, you just have to say if you want to do it or not. So me and Shul, we went back to my student house. We drank a bottle of wine and we're like, okay, let's do this. So then we secured the 250K. But also around that time, in all the startups, there were some troubles. United Wardrobe was very popular. We went down a lot. And then we were like, okay, what's going on, Joep and Thijs? And then Joep was like, yeah, it's the server went down because the code of Thijs wasn't really well. And Thijs was like, okay, yeah, the server went down because the server has issues. So there were constantly some strugglings in the team, and eventually we decided that the best way to split up was that if Joep left and Thijs Slijkhuis joined our team. And after a lot of negotiations and difficult talks with lawyers, which was a super annoying, difficult process for us all, we came to the conclusion that Thijs Slijkhuis joined United Wardrobe. We had 250,000 euros. Joep still kept a small part of the shares. And we went on creating this big marketplace because, yeah, we needed customer support, we needed developers. So that's what we did. With the first 250,000 euros, we really scaled up the Dutch marketing. We started getting traction in Belgium. And we kept on using the strategy, like the revenue that's coming in, we spend it directly on our Facebook ads. So if the company grew, the Facebook ads grew, and then the users grew. So we really had this snowball effect kicking in. And we had the luck that we were the first in the market, like nowadays creating something new on the internet is so freaking difficult. And around that time, it was 2014. It was still the cowboy days. You could still create a fashion marketplace. There were no Vinted yet in the Netherlands and in Belgium. Of course, in France there was. We're going to learn that later in this story. So we had this money. We had Thijs Slijkhuis developing. We hired our first developer, Rem Smeers, amazing guy. And then the company really started expanding. And around that time, we had a new office at the Neude Square in Utrecht. It's like the old postal office. And there we really started scaling. We were around, I think we were making like 60 or 75,000 euros a month. Serious money to spend all on marketing again and growing insanely. And then around that time, we started to learn about influencer marketing. And it was also so super random. One of my friends was telling me like, hey, my sister is watching to this Monica Geuze girl and this Masha on YouTube all the time. And they have like millions of followers. And like every time they post a video, like 100,000 people watch. On this video, I only got 8 people watching right now. But and then we were like, okay, wow, this is something that's working. We totally did not understand. So we contacted them. We tested some collaborations, and then we were like, okay, we have to just work with the biggest influencer that there is at the moment in the fashion scene. And it was Masha from the Beauty Gloss channel. And we gave Masha some budget to shop on United Wardrobe. She created a video in March 2015, I guess. And then we posted this video, and this was like our total marketing budget. We put the whole month or period, Q2 or Q1, we put on this video. And then it was at night, and me and Shu are working at the office a lot of the times, also in the evenings. It was around 8 o'clock. She put the video live, and after 15 minutes, we're like, nothing is happening. We don't get extra traffic. And around the same time, YouTube had a notification bug. So normally if you go live on YouTube or you post a video, then all your followers immediately get a notification. But that system was lacking. It was not working. So me and Shu were thinking like, oh my God, we spent all our money on this video and nobody is watching it. So we went to a bar, we started drinking. And then after an hour, we get this phone call of Thijs Slijkhuis like, hey guys, what have you done? Like the server is overloaded. We have thousands of people registering and everything is going wrong. And we're looking at YouTube. And then the video had like 150,000 views. And we were like, what the fuck? And then YouTube just, normally they send the notification in batches. But then they just decided to send everybody the notification at once. So everybody was clicking on the link. It was a good video. And then we exploded, and for 3 days we had serious server issues. You could not really reach the site. It was super laggy, and so we really thought like, okay, this was the shot. We missed it, but eventually the people just came back, and we started to becoming even bigger than Marktplaats.nl in clothing around that time, which is insane because Marktplaats is has the highest penetration rates of all marketplaces combined in the world. So that means that like the Dutchies just have like the most users that use no, penetration rate says like in a population, like the density that a population uses a marketplace. And the marketplace has the highest density of users, so it's bigger than eBay is in the United States. Of course, eBay is bigger, but if you look at the population, you get what I mean. Okay, thanks himself, 81. Okay, so we got this influencer marketing thing going, and we were really scaling. I just have to put on my sound. Okay, sorry, because I got a call in between. Anyway, so we got this influencer thing going, and then me and Shu were like serious because we were scaling like no one else in this fashion marketplace game. Of course, Vinted was scaling, but not in our market. So we were like, okay, we were gonna raise €1 million. Let's go! And so we went to Stockholm to pitch for EQT. We went to London. We went to Paris, and eventually we found. We called our previous investor. Oh no, I'm gonna react after I'm reading the comments here. No, I'm gonna get the chat away because I'm distracted. But you can post your questions. I will react on it later. So we went on raising 1 million, pitching to everybody. We called Arthur Koste back again, and we're like, "Hey, Arthur, we're scaling. Oh, you didn't do the first investment." He was like, "Okay, come, we're gonna do some coffee." We went on doing some coffee with him. We had a super cool conversation. He was like, "Oh, my girls are also using United Warrior. I want a picture with you." And then we had the picture with Arthur Koster. It was really insane because like he was really our idol because he was this big entrepreneur, being the CMO of Booking, and then he wanted the picture with us. It was really funny. And then eventually he told us like, "Hey, I want to do this with you if P Capital, the venture capital firm, is joining." And that's what we see a lot of these days. You know, you have these angel investors, and they're like, "Really, okay, this is a nice startup. I want to put some money in it, but I don't want to do all the work and take all the risk myself." So they basically say, "Okay, we want this venture capital firm to take the lead, and I will just chip in with them." So in total, we raised in the start 1 million of them. And like after half a year, they gave us 1.5 million euros extra from the French market, and we started hiring like crazy. Eventually, we had 55 people. We were doing crazy French campaigns. We paid like 50,000 euros for one video of Gael Garcia Diaz. It was amazing to do marketing with her because she's like the biggest YouTube star in France. And we had like, of course, we did a test in Germany and in France. So when we started expanding, we thought like, okay, we gave 50,000 euros to Germany, 50,000 euros to France. And then eventually saw that France was so much cheaper to do marketing in for us. So we were like, okay, let's go, put all the money on France. And we had like insane, sometimes like days with 30,000 unique listers coming in, registrations coming in. And they were all also listing their products because they already knew how Vinted worked. So they knew how our product worked. But we charged 10%, and Vinted started charging 0%. So that was already our big mistake. We just had to adapt our business model to it. But we had some conversation about it. It was not working, blah, blah, blah. So I decided to move to Paris for 4 months, work with all the influencers there. And we got traction. It was at some point we had more French users than Dutch users. But what happened after 2 months, all these users just went back to Vinted because they had their followers there, they had their likes there, they had their Vinted budget shopping there. And we started to question ourselves like, is this really the right thing to do? And also around that time, we had 55 employees. We had like around 200,000 euros of employee costs every month. And we had a runway of 6 months. Like a runway is in startup language slang. It's like how long you can still exist until the money is gone. So we still had like, around 700,000 left. And then we were like, I think there's something going wrong here, but we still have this like 6 months. So we're going to be fine. And it was like 5 months. We're like, maybe we have to start talking to investors to get some extra money to fund this whole process. And then it was like 4 months. And then our investors were like seriously saying to us, guys, France is not working. You're doing great in the Netherlands and Belgium, but France is just a fucking disaster. So you have to make some decisions. We have to fire people. We have to get the headcount down in order to survive and keep the Netherlands and Belgium growing. So that's basically what we did. We had 55 employees. We had to go down back to 35. It was a hell of a job to do that because United Wardrobe was one big family. We're all young people. We had an office in the center of Utrecht. We had a bar, Friday night drinks. We were really a family. Like people had relationships, doing things in the weekend with each other. And then all of a sudden, we had to tell like 20 people that they couldn't be part of this family anymore. It was like the hardest part of my life, but eventually it was just, yeah, a sour apple in Dutch. We had to bite through the sour apple. No, it's like a Dutch saying. But yeah, that's basically what it was. We had just had to do it, and we had to cut down the budget. And afterwards, we really thought, like, okay, all the employees that will stay will think we're just like total bastards, but they had immense respect for us that we still could manage the company. And yeah, that was around 2018, and we started growing again. We cut down the headcount, and then we could still use more marketing budgets. And that was also around the time that I just get this random LinkedIn message of this guy saying like, "Hey, I'm Jim, and I'm working for this big IT company which buys startups. Do you want to come to the other side of the world and have some beers with us here?" And I was like, this is a scam. So I was like, Jim, just come to our office, then we can talk here. So he came to our office. I had a chat with him. Was also a Dutch guy. And he was like basically saying, okay, just send me the passports, and then we'll book some flights for you guys, and then yeah, we'll just have some fun. Cannot tell where the office is located because eventually we didn't do the deal with them. So it has to be confidential because I signed an NDA. And that was in 2018. We flew to the other side of the world. Me, Thijs, and Jules never flew business class in our life. And it's amazing to fly business class because you have these beds with beds down and you can just sleep. It's amazing. But if you've done it once, it will ruin your flight experience for the rest of your life. Because if you sit in the economy, you're only thinking like, I want to go back to business class. But anyway, then we went there with a lot of conversations, nice dinners. They paid everything for us. They did an amazing offer, but we just had this investment of Peak, and Peak was like, we're not sure if you already, maybe we can charge like three times more in a couple of years. So that's what we did. Just started building again. We left the offer next to us. And we got also a bank loan of the Rabobank to create our kids' clothes categories. And for me personally, I thought like that the bank loan was never possible because we were just a startup. But we were already existing for 5 years, and we had some steady revenue flow that was growing. And the Rabobank Utrecht was like, okay, guys, yeah, this is a perfectly fine business. Here's 750K. Just create your kids' clothes part. And when we just closed that round in 2019, then also everybody was talking about Vinted, because Vinted launched on the Dutch television, and it was a total disaster for us because every birthday that we gave, people were like, "Hey guys, do you know this Vinted? Is it not the same as United Wardrobe?" And then we also always had to explain like, okay, yeah, it's Vinted. Yeah, they're the same, but we're better because we're doing this and this. And then they were just like going full nuclear on us. They spent like millions of marketing on the Dutch television, and we just had like 50,000 euros of budget. Yeah, we just dug ourselves in the trenches and resisted them, which eventually led to them opening a discussion of acquiring United Wardrobe. So we hired some investment bankers, because that's what you do if you have a bigger company. You hire investment bankers to do this process for you. Drakestar did this process for us then back in the days, and then we also got some offers from other parties, but eventually we decided the culture of Vinted and also the offer of Vinted was the best for us. So we just decided to sign some deals. We started the NDA, then they go look through your books and see if everything that you told and pitched to them is real. And they had some small red flags, but they were like, okay, we can do this deal. And that was the beginning of 2020. around half of February, we would sign the last piece of paper, and then we just sold United Wardrobe to Vinted. A lot of people ask me like, why would you sell United Wardrobe? Because it was growing. Well, the market was consolidating. We were still market leader in the Netherlands, but Vinted was in Germany, Vinted was in Belgium, Vinted was in France, Vinted was in the UK. It was for us super hard to pick some part of the world. It was possible maybe to do the Nordics or do like Latin America, but we also thought like, okay, things are balancing out a bit because maybe if Vinted grows even more now in the Netherlands, we cannot sell anymore. And around that time, we were still market leader, and Vinted was like pushing to do the deal. So we were like, okay, let's just do this because the deal was, of course, for us founders, super sweet. So we wanted to do the deal. It was February 2020, and what happened? The Rona came in. Corona started. Vince was like, okay, we're gonna pass this deal because France was going like this, and we were like, okay, what is happening? This was our chance. We screwed it up. We had to do it like a month before. Why would it take so long to do this deal and due diligence? But that's how it was. And we really thought that we had to let go of our employees again because in the weekends where everybody was buying toilet paper, nobody was buying clothes anymore because people were in panic mode. We sat down, we made a whole list, and this whole Corona stone thing. So the government money came in, and we were like, okay, maybe we have to apply for that. Then the last press conference of Rutte was, and then out of nothing, United Wardrobe exploded because people just couldn't go to the stores anymore to buy clothes. People couldn't go to the thrift store anymore. Couldn't go to the Zara, the H&M to buy cheap clothes. They only could go to Marktplaats, Vinted, or United Wardrobe. So we got tons of new users because also all these people saw these Vinted ads on television, which were like the older part of the Dutch society, which didn't know United Wardrobe yet, also started Googling like secondhand clothes, came to United Wardrobe. So we had tons of new users, and we were growing and growing and growing towards the summer. And eventually Vinted came back in, and they were like, guys, okay, now it's done. We're gonna do this deal. We signed off for the deal, and personally for me, I was like, okay, maybe I can still work at Vinted, but I just want to write a book about this whole story. I want to give like guest lectures like these, and just chill down a bit because it was really stressful 8 years for like 7 years, because United Wardrobe was all the time online. It was like on Sunday evenings I was behind Google Analytics and my Facebook screen and watching if all the transactions came in the right way. So personally for me, I was really looking forward for some time off. Shu and Thijs, they both had really an ambition to learn how a big company is working, because at Vinted there was like 1,200 people. It's like one of the most tech-savvy companies of Europe. You can learn a shitload of things there. So they basically decided to stay there, and I basically decided to leave, buy a house, renovate it. That's what I did the last month. Wrote a book about it, give a lot of guest lectures, have a lot of talk with other businesses. And I'm still on the lookout for some new adventure. It's not in the United Wardrobe days when I was still a student. I really had this drive and sick as motivation to go for it. Of course, I still have that, but things are getting some cool down now because I learned a lot about how a startup works and how liquidity works in a marketplace. And then that's if you just go and email people yourself all the time, that it is not going to work. You have to find scalable channels where you can put your marketing euros in, where you have nice customer acquisition costs and good customer lifetime value. So yeah, that's basically the story of United Wardrobe, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And now I'm just going to the comments. Jur van Wamel, nowadays big innovations are produced with a lot of increments, proving the problem, solution, exploration. Yes, I listened to your audiobook and it seemed like your initial idea was already from the beginning spot on. And is this correct? How did you guys improve the platform during your business growth? Well, it was not spot on right away. We really had a shitty website, and the website was, totally not working in the beginning. And it was when we created the first iOS and Android app that people really could take pictures from their phone, post it online directly, that we really started scaling, because it was so much more easier to yeah, just to sell your item, because if you only have a website, people have to make pictures, send it to the email, and then they can post all the stuff. So we really have these increments all the time. We're testing, developing, testing, developing. So we had some traction in the beginning, but if you were to see it, your eyes were start to bleed. United Water.nl in January 2030 was really ugly. Thanks, himself 81. There's also an audio book that I made. It's only in Dutch. I'm sorry. That's why I give this English guest lecture, because a lot of people ask me to do it in English. Nicholas, wasn't there a risk of putting all your money in paid ads? What if someone else paid more? Or what if Facebook changed their feed ranking? We're not worried about that. No, yeah, we were just students, and we were just like, hey, this is working. So we're just putting in money, and we get more users out of it. So, yeah, we really also thought sometimes, like, maybe we're being a slave of Facebook, because it was our only marketing channel. But then we also started looking for other marketing channels, and we found influencer marketing. But around that time, we weren't that worried about it. And please ask your questions in the comments, guys. So the thing which made you scale most were Facebook ads and influencer marketing. Yeah, so yeah, that's basically influencer marketing in combination with Facebook ads. Like in the start, we used the Facebook ads, and after that, we used the influencer marketing to scale. We also used some Google ads, but it was not really working for us because we have really low customer lifetime value. We only made like 3 or 4 euros on a transaction. So Google ads are super expensive, and Facebook and influencer was super cheap for us, because United Water had a really nice fit with influencers, because their audience was super young, so they were looking for bargains that they could find to United Water, or they want to make money, and that worked for us. Yeah, thanks, Jur. Are there still other questions, guys? I'm gonna have a look on my socials if there are some questions coming in. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, so how did we pick and target those influencers? Yeah, we really wanted to work with the fashion influencers, and because we knew, like, okay, they're fashion influencers, they have a lot of female followers, because we really targeted the female audience, because like 85% of United Water was female, and 90% of all transactions came from women. So yeah, so we really looked at the fashion influencers who had the biggest reach, because we really wanted to make impact and scale, because we had a mass product. We just had to have like a shitload of people coming in. So we just targeted the biggest Dutch-speaking influencers, and after that, the biggest female fashion French influencers. I'm currently working on my own platform right now. Are you open for a conversation to exchange ideas? Well, we have a conversation here. You're just post some ideas here. I still have some minutes to to give feedback. How important is a good acquisition strategy when launching your platform? So you mean an acquisition strategy towards like selling your company? I think that's not important. It's always in the back of your mind, of course. But yeah, if you start a company to sell it, then you have to really be a skilled entrepreneur that can put in millions directly at the start. But if you're just a student and you have a vision, or you're just going from a job and you have a vision to create some kind of product, then you can think about an exit. But yeah, it's so far in the future. Like running a startup is, yeah, you make plans for the coming months or days and not for the coming years. So also our exit, we knew that it was gonna happen somewhere when Vinted raised like a shitload of money, like 300, 250 million euros. And we knew like, okay, they're gonna do a buy and build strategy, so maybe they're gonna buy us. So we have to get some investment bankers. But in the beginning, that's what we were like. Okay, we had to, yeah, scale this, and then yeah, we were not thinking about an exit. Oh, generating traffic. Oh, sorry, Jur. Um, yeah, of course. If you need, if you or you need have a platform like United Wardrobe or just a sneaker store or just any other random IT product, you need a shitload of traffic to get it going. Maybe not if you sell houses and you make like on one transaction 10,000 euros, but then Funda also has like millions of visitors. So still, you need a lot of traffic. Yeah, you always have to think of like, how can I get cheap traffic to my IT product, website, app, or whatever? Because if you don't have like super a shitload of traffic to your product, yeah, maybe if you have some niche SaaS product, like a software as a service tool for business to business, then the strategy is whole different. I don't have a lot of experience with that, but it's always important that you understand how you get your customers for not a lot of money. Thanks for all the questions. You really keep the conversation going. When you had to launch United Warp in 2022, which strategy would you use with the, yeah, of course, I would do it the Vinted way. It's like the way to go. They scale like 50 times faster than we are doing. TV marketing is just working. We were always, yeah, too pussy to put in a lot of money in TV ads. And if you want to make TV ads work, you really have to put in like 500K or something. And that's for a startup a shitload of money. And it's, if it's only a test, yeah, we didn't have that marketing budget. We had to fund another round of like 8 million to really have traction with TV marketing. So it was not working for us, but it was working for us if we would take the risk, I guess. Which stage of building the company did you enjoy the most? Um, there was definitely, yeah, of course, the exit was completely insane. The feeling that we had there, that it was really a successful exit, was insane. I enjoyed that. Yeah, that was like the cherry on the pie. But the first years of United War, when we were with a small team of like 10 people, I was developing, not myself, but I was testing every new feature that launched. And we had just a small team and one vision. And in the morning, you could say, hey, we're going to do this today. And then at the end of the day, it would be live. It was an amazing feeling. So, yeah, really the starting point and the last week of the exit when everything came down and it worked all as planned. Those were the golden days of United Wardrobe. Are you open to invest advise other UV in other parts of the world? Ignacio, I can't. I cannot invest in any other United Wardrobe piece companies because I signed a deal with Vinted and I'm a Vinted shareholder now. So it's not in my interest to invest in other competitors of Vinted. So no, I'm sorry, my hands are tied. I cannot invest or help launch competitors or yeah copies. I'm sorry. Any other questions, guys? Hope you enjoyed. I'm just gonna put this video live afterwards. Oh, okay, guys. I think it's a wrap. Thank you all for being here and watching this live stream. I really want to do this more and more. Hopefully, after I post this or after I finish this up, it will be available and you can just share it with your friends. And oh, whoa, you're Another question, the last one. How did you generate money to live in the beginning? Well, I was a window cleaner. My dad had a window cleaning company, and I cleaned windows. And Shul was working at the police station, cleaning the pots and pans. Um, yeah, you have to hustle in the beginning, and we didn't have no money from United Wardrobe until I guess after a year we paid ourselves 500 euros a month, and then we had the first investment, and then we had like 1,500 euros a month. So yeah, it was grinding. Okay, guys, have a nice evening, and if you have some other questions, just send me a message on LinkedIn or Instagram. Ciao, ciao.